Did you know that the Bible is the best-selling book in history? However, the question is, do people simply buy the Bible because of its popularity, or do they study it for its power? We are about to study a book that is begging for us to slow down and take a closer look. Welcome to our deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah with your fellow study partner, Keith Johnson. Welcome, my friends. My name is Keith Johnson, founder of Biblical Foundations Academy International. Our mission is to inspire people around the world to build a biblical foundation for their faith. So before we get started, I want to actually propose 4 different levels of Bible study using the ocean as an image. The first level, the one who loves to look at the ocean/Bible. This is the person who maybe has a place where they can look and see the ocean. They look at it, they think it's nice. They're right on the shore, but they don't want to get wet. It's kind of the person that has a Bible in their house. Maybe they bought it. It's a family Bible, but that's about as far as they want to go for studying. The second person is the one who's willing to get a little wet. You know, they put their toe in the water. Maybe they'll swim just a little bit, but not go too far from the shore. Those are the people who look at their Bible and maybe they open it every once in a while. Maybe it's at their church where the pastor's preaching and they open it, and maybe on special occasions they'll open their Bible. Level 3, that's the person who's like the one who's like a snorkeler. They're ones who can look at the Bible, get themselves wet. They like to stay about, right at the top of the water there. They don't want to go too deep, only as far as their breath can hold them. But then there's level 4. The one who's willing to be a scuba diver. That's the person that's willing to go into the depth, to see the beauty, to see the different things that are down in the ocean. The person that looks at their Bible and says, I want everything that is there for me. I want language. I want history. I want context. I want pronunciation, explanation, translation, and even application. That person is the one that we're going to try to give the information for, while at the same time addressing all of the other levels. What we're going to do in this Bible study is I've got to share with you right now a little bit of context about BFA. So I've got a short video I want you to look at, and as soon as you're done looking at this video, you'll get an idea of kind of why this guy is so focused on language, history, context of the Bible. And after that, come back and we'll try to put a cap on this whole thing. Hey folks, I found this when I actually taped the promo for this series. It's a shark tooth. We are taking territory, and we're going to do that with your help. We need you to like. We need you to comment. We need you to share. Embed it on your website if you'd like. Let's keep sending this message around the world about the deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah. I really appreciate you letting me spin that card, giving you a chance to understand what the BFA is all about. We are committed to inspiring people around the world to build a biblical foundation for their faith. And this deep dive Bible study is going to help us do just that. So here's what I need you to do. Get a couple translations, your favorite ones that you have, and let's crack them open and go beyond just reading the Bible, but studying it for everything it has for us.
The Chronological Gospels Bible is changing lives all over the world, putting everything the Messiah did in exact chronological order and explaining the behind-the-scenes truth of what the Messiah did, when he did it, and why. The timing of it all means everything. And now, the Chronological Gospels can be easier on your eyes. The larger print edition features 40% larger type, and every page appears exactly the same as the original, so you can follow along with others who have the regular size version. The Chronological Gospels larger print edition also has wider margins to write notes, and the premium quality paper means you can highlight without soaking through. Plus, the larger print edition lies flat, so you can teach without having to hold the book open. The Chronological Gospels larger print edition is a big and beautiful coffee table book, measuring a full 12 inches tall and 9 inches wide. Study the Bible with clarity and ease.
I love the size of this book. This is 9 by 12. The paper is perfect because it doesn't bleed through when I write on it. I can mark it up, and I always make notes in all my Bibles. Everything is the same place as it is on the smaller version, and I can just stand back and I can teach from it, and it's the perfect size.
I pray thee, of whom speaks this prophet?
Order the Chronological Gospels larger print edition by phone or online. You'll get 40% larger type than the original. Call 800-788-7887. That's 800-788-7887. Or get the Chronological Gospels Bible larger print edition online at aroodawakening.tv/large.
Did you know the prophet Jonah is mentioned in the sacred books of the three main religions? Judaism, the Hebrew Bible, Christianity, the New Testament, and Islam, actually in the Quran. In the New Testament, what it says in Matthew 16:4 is this: "An evil and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and a sign will not be given it, except the sign of Jonah. And he left them and went away." This is Yeshua speaking. Now, there are three other verses. I want you to check them for yourself. Matthew 12:39, Luke 11:29, and Luke 11:32. Also in the Quran, it says this: Jonah is the only one of Judaism's 12 minor prophets to be named in the Quran. In Quran 2187 and 6848, Jonah is called Dul Nun, in Arabic meaning the one of the fish. In 4:163 and 686, he is referred to as an apostle of Allah. So why this project? Why now? Whenever God gives vision, he always gives provision. So I need to back up just a little bit, folks. Now, whenever you watch this series, maybe you'll watch it 10 years from now or 20 years from now, or maybe even before that, this actually took place during a time of something significant in our generation, a generational defining moment, which they called the COVID-19 pandemic. I had a strong urging to venture back into the deep ocean of further study of the book of Jonah. That is when I caught the vision to combine information, inspiration, revelation with excellent production. But more importantly, I believe that the message of the book of Jonah is needed now as much or even more than ever. So before we go forward, I need to add a little perspective on those first 7 verses. Now, if you have not watched the first 7 episodes, which are based on the first 7 verses, which we also made available the first 7 lessons of a biblical Hebrew audio course, and you have missed it. You should stop it right now. Go back and watch those first 7. I want to give you an important thing that I did not talk about in those first 7 episodes. And that is, I should tell you that there is a heavyweight fight taking place in Jonah chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. So this is going to provide both a review and a little bit of perspective on what's happening in those first 7 verses. In this corner, we have Jonah the prophet. Weighing, I have no idea. I don't know what he looks like. I just know he is Jonah the prophet. And in this corner, we have Jonah the person. So now you've got Jonah the person and Jonah the prophet. And I believe the promoter of this fight is Jonah the author. Now, there are people that are going to argue Jonah is not the author of the book. But I believe, based on what we read and understand, that it is Jonah the author who is promoting a fight between Jonah the prophet and Jonah the person. Let's dive in and take a look so you'll understand what I'm talking about. Now, to help you understand this and to give you a way to kind of remember, think of the word Jonah app, A-P-P. Jonah the author, Jonah the prophet, and Jonah the person. Let's take a look at Jonah chapter 1, verses 1 through 2. Now it happened. Oh, and I should say real quick, folks, I forgot to say, this also allows for you to hear the KJV, the Keith Johnson version, which is our lost in translation aspect of being able to get under the translations, the English translations, to give us a better understanding of what we see in terms of language, history, and context in the Hebrew Bible. So this is the KJV, Jonah 1, 1 through 2. Now it happened that the matter of YeHoVaH manifested to Jonah, son of Amittai, quote, "Get up, go to Nineveh, the great city, and announce against it that their wickedness has ascended into my presence." The winner of that particular round is Jonah the prophet. There's no question we're talking about Jonah the prophet. The second part of the verse, Jonah chapter 1, verses 3 and 4. But Jonah got up to flee to Tarshish from the presence of YeHoVaH. Then he went down to Joppa and he found a ship going to Tarshish. He then gave its wage and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish from the presence of YeHoVaH. Verse 4. So YeHoVaH threw a great wind on the sea, and great tempest came upon the sea, so that the ship thought to break in pieces. The winner of that round, Jonah the person. He wins round 2. Round 3, Jonah chapter 1, verse 5. Then the sailors feared, and each cried out to his god/gods. Then they threw their cargo, which was on the ship, to the sea to lighten their load. But Jonah went down to the lowest of the hull, and he laid down and he slept deeply. Round 3, that's clearly Jonah the person. Let's go to round 4. Jonah chapter 1, verse 6. Then the boss of the crew approached him and said, "What is with you in a deep sleep? Get up, call to your God. Perhaps the one true God will think about us and we will not perish." There is no question we're dealing with Jonah the prophet. In fact, I argue that the boss of the ship and Jonah the prophet had a deal. We'll talk about that later. But round 4 goes to Jonah the prophet. Now, Jonah chapter 1, verse 7. Then a man said to his friend, "Let's go and cast lots, and we will know on whose account this evil is upon us." Then they cast lots, and the lot fell upon Jonah. I consider this, folks, a split decision. Both Jonahs are represented in this one verse. Whose account this evil? That's Jonah the person. And the lot fell upon, that's Jonah the prophet, whom YeHoVaH is still pursuing to fulfill his purposes. So here's the count. 3 verses go to Jonah the prophet, and 3 verses go to Jonah the person. 1 verse goes to both. In verses 8 through 16, one of the Jonahs comes out swinging and wins the chapter. Folks, I will tell you something. This is enjoyable to me. This is exciting to me because what I have done since those first 7 lessons, those first 7 episodes, is I found myself down here in the deep dive studio working with the best of the best to be able to produce for you this information that's going to help you study your Bible, language, history, and context. But it's going to take some scuba gear. We're going to have to be willing to kind of get not only wet, but dive in. And that's what we're going to help you do through this entire process. We're now ready to move to the next section, just about, which is going to take us to Jonah chapter 1, verses 8 through 16. We have been working behind the scenes with the best producer you can imagine. Our producer has been working to make this as understandable as possible with the graphics and all of that, but we need you to participate with us. Like, comment, share, subscribe, push the bell icon, and let's keep studying in the deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah. I realized, you all, that it's possible some of you are looking at this and saying to yourself, who is this guy messing with my translation? Does he even have the ability to do these sorts of things? What's his background? What's his training? So I need to take just a moment to tell you what I'm considering my Hebrew study journey. The first step in my study journey started in seminary. I went to Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. I was there in the MDiv program where they required both Greek and Hebrew. And I'll never forget it. The first time I was in class with Dr. Sailhammer, and he gets up in front of the class and he starts writing letters that looked like Klingon to me backwards. Come to find out, these were Hebrew letters that he was writing that represented the very language that God used to share his will, his way, and his word. This caught my attention. I was captivated. As I was watching Dr. Sailhammer do this, something in me started to just well up. And as soon as I went through the Hebrew course, I went to Dr. Sailhammer and I said, "Is there any way I can do an individual study with you?" And he said, "Absolutely. I'm writing a commentary." He said, "It would help to have some students go behind me and do some reading." So I ended up picking the first 5 books of the Torah. At that point in seminary, I didn't even know the significance. I said, "How about the first 5 books?" And I'm reading in Bereshit, Bara, Elohim. I'm reading Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Then something happened. In around 2001 or so, as I was leading a ministry for athletes, NBA and NFL athletes, we actually had a Torah scroll, believe it or not, at this conference. My friend Reggie White, who has passed since then, was one of the founders of our ministry, and he arranged to have us have a Torah scroll at this conference. And I'll never forget it. I reach out to touch the Torah scroll and I start to weep. And I'm telling you, at that point, I'm like, what's going on? Sure enough, come to find out that Torah scroll, of course, written in the Hebrew language, as I began to be in a process, I wanted to have my own Torah scroll. Eventually that happened. And I got to tell you something, it changed my life to have the Torah, those first 5 books, reading them in Hebrew. I found a friend of mine, Nehemiah Gordon, who is now Dr. Nehemiah Gordon, and asked him to help me and teach me and help me to understand how I could read that Torah scroll. And sure enough, he did it. As a result, Nehemiah and I have done a number of what I call really powerful series that use the Hebrew language. I call them the Pearls series. We have Torah Pearls, which is based on the Torah portions that are read around the world in synagogues around the world. We did an entire year of a show with that. Then we did Prophet Pearls, which is the prophet section that's related to the Torah Pearls. After that, I did my own series called Proverb Pearls, a devotional series where people can actually go through 31 days using Proverbs. And I'm telling you, folks, when I did that series, it has blessed. In fact, every couple months or so, I go through it again myself. That's now on a podcast. People all over the world are going through Proverb Pearls. And then we are doing what's called Hebrew Gospel Pearls, where we're going into the book of Matthew using the Hebrew Gospel of Matthew. And that is helping, again, for me to continue to use my Hebrew skills. Then something else happened. I decided I needed to give people a chance to learn the way I was learning. I'm not so much into people saying, hey, Keith really knows what he's talking about. Boy, Keith said, I don't ever want you to say that. What I want people to do is to do what I have done, which is to learn the information for themselves. I want to share that information with you so you can learn it for yourself. And that's why this deep dive Bible study is perfect in terms of the journey that I've been on with Hebrew. Then I came across my dear friend now and Professor Dr. Moster, who has his PhD from Bar-Ilan University. He and I have been doing Hebrew intensives to prepare for this, to also prepare for further study of the Hebrew Gospel Pearls and any of the number of the other things that I'm doing. But then we're now dealing with the Jonah deep dive. And you folks, we have brought all of the tools, everything I have, language, history, and context. And as a result, we're able to bring to the surface some of the things that we find in the Hebrew Bible, in the book of Jonah, that are so appropriate for our generation right now. So that is going to be the approach that I'm going to take. I want to take everything, the journey that I've been on over these 20-some years, all of the tools, all the information, inspiration, revelation, bring it all together in this Jonah deep dive Bible study. Now, I got to tell you something. The first 7 episodes were kind of like snorkeling. We kind of were up there on the surface. Every once in a while, we went down as long as a breath could hold, but we had to come back up. But in the next 6 episodes, folks, we are going scuba diving. And I'm going to give you all of the equipment that you need so that we can continue to learn, that we can continue to study. When we begin to encounter God's word in its original language, history, and context, it is like watching HD TV in 3D. So let's keep studying in this deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah.
Visit bfainternational.com today and join our online academy for free. You'll get immediate access to start watching all of Keith Johnson's latest programs, including the Time Will Tell series, Rediscovering God's Clock from Israel and Beyond, the Now is the Time miniseries, based in New York City and Washington, D.C., The Road to Reformation, a 10-step study for biblical reformation, the Open Door series, 18 hours of exciting teaching from a national speaking tour, His Hallowed Name, a series on God's name that was banned from TV. Also, hear directly from Keith Johnson through weekly personal blog updates. Why delay? Visit bfainternational.com right now. Then click the Enter the Academy button. Visit us today.
Folks, I have to tell you something. Studying the Bible in its original language, history, and context has literally changed my life. When I have had the opportunity to open up my Hebrew Bible that I have here, and again, one of the things that we're going to do is I'm always going to encourage you to get at least 2 English translations. we're using for this series the NIV, the New International Version, which is a Christian translation, and the JPS, the Jewish Publication Society. Now again, I've got the BHS, Biblia Hebraica Stuttgart Catencia, that's my Hebrew Bible, the NIV, and the JPS. Now folks, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to have the tools that I have been given. I want to give you everything I have had. And as a result of what I have been given, as I give it to you, it only blesses me even more. In fact, when I was studying for this segment, there were times where I just had to get up and walk away from this Bible. I just had so much revelation that came. Now, here's the point. I'm not going to be able to give you everything I had within this context of our production, but I have got great news, and we're going to hear about it as soon as we get to the next episode. But right now, what is available right this moment is you can go to BFA International, become a free member, get a chance to have the first 7 lessons of the Biblical Hebrew audio course that I created for free. Now, these next verses that we go into, I've come up with something even more radical. But I don't want to spoil that just yet. What I really want to do is I want to get into the next 9 verses. Now, the next 9 verses are going to take us all the way to the end of chapter 1. And I'm going to tell you what I think, how I'm considering this series. We started out saying it's only going to be 1 episode. That's going to be a pilot series. And then we said, well, the first 7 will be a pilot. Now we're saying the entire first 13 episodes is a pilot series. We're going to find out whether you're interested in continuing on with us in this deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah.
Shalom, Torah fans. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Tap the subscription button and the bell icon. And I promise to update weekly with in-depth biblical research. Be sure to download the new michaelrood.tv app for both mobile and home devices for even more commercial-free content.